Well, hello again. Just wanting to clarify a few things. For the record, and because there's a good chance sooner or later I'll have to face the inquisition, and they will try to put ideas in my mouth and pretend that I expressed them. And I also think it's fair to be fair, because I'm about justice and truth, and I want to clarify things. I want to make sure people understand that the problem we face isn't any particular group. In fact, it's every group. Every group is an expression or manifestation of human nature. And there is no way that the cult of Judah could ever have gained a foothold or the control of the world, which it does have, without our complicity and even active participation. Not just our passive participation in letting things happen and not concerning ourselves with what's happening to other people and other beings on this planet, and just hoping we can somehow get ahead and hopefully wait for our ship to come in so we can rise above all the rubbish and live in luxury somewhere in paradise in a gated community. Remember, heaven is the original gated community. Heaven. Yeah. They have really good security. They don't just let anybody in. And I expect they probably have migrant workers doing the gardening in heaven too. And most of the work. Okay, so yeah, but this is of course not a professional production. My hair and makeup people obviously haven't been working this morning on me. Someone suggested that I'm smarter than I seem to be, which is maybe an insult, I don't know, or a compliment. I'm not sure how to take that. If I was Jewish, I would have absolutely no problem telling you I was Jewish. I'm not. It might make things easier if I was. I don't think I am. And to be honest, the term Jewish means absolutely nothing to me, really. It only means to me whatever it means to you. And if it means something good to you, then there's something good for me too. But if it means the sort of ideology which I call Semitism, the ideology of racial supremacism, the ideology of racism, the idea that there's a chosen people who is God, who, remember, never claimed to be the only God. I want to make that clear now. There's an overview thing. That the Torah and the Old Testament and the cult of Judah never claimed to be monotheistic. They are not monotheistic. You have to understand that. In the Bible, Yahweh demands that you worship only Him and not the other gods. Yahweh Himself refers to the other gods He's jealous of. So He's demanding that you do not worship the other gods, but you worship Him. It seems to me, with all the talk of the war in heaven, where heaven was taken by force, that there's some truth in all the documents that have come down to us. And it seems there's a good chance that we were actually colonized and maybe even created, produced by aliens, the Anunnaki, those who from the heavens came, or those who down from the heavens came. If you read my latest publication, The Sound Foundations of TRANSGENDER, I think you'll find that even lowly Marcus has added something to this whole discussion. and you'll see the correspondences between the Aztec and the Sumerian and the other gods, serpent gods, and you'll see why it's reasonable to suspect we're dealing with the same characters who colonized this world at some point, and maybe they're still here, who knows, maybe David Icke is right. But I don't think we have to go as far as shape-changing reptilians, shape-shifting reptilians. Though I love David Icke, and he's the closest there is to myself, to my own beliefs that I've come across, but suspiciously, potentially controlled opposition, sorry. But I would love to meet him and discuss that with him, and I'm not accusing him of being controlled, but entertaining the idea of shape-shifting aliens is great. Praise to him, really, seriously, for having the courage to come out and express his beliefs in those things. But of all the things that we should be worrying about, that's probably not the top priority. But the problem is us. We are the problem, and we much prefer to blame some other, race, some other religion, other race, for you racists. I want to say that I think red ice are controlled opposition, because they keep going on about race and race purity, and then they tell us all their friends are married to people of different races, and that's fine by them. So I think really, if you, as I say about religion, people claim to believe lots of things, but they clearly don't believe them. If you really believed in heaven and hell, then you wouldn't give a damn about any earthly power or wealth or prestige or status. But I finished doing the research on St. Francis of Assisi, and it's really pathetic, really, in the end. He had the potential, because he seemed to love animals and love everything, but he wasn't vegan, he wasn't even vegetarian. He had this really perverse idea that by deliberately inflicting unnecessary suffering on himself, he was somehow purging himself of desire for this world and doing good. And he basically contributed to the cult of Judas' power, because they used him like they used Jesus. Like even Buddhists use Buddha. The Dalai Lama is a prince, he's a king, really. Yeah, if you understand what the Dalai Lama did not put in his book, you'd be appalled. And the idea that it's okay to eat the flesh of tortured animals as long as you didn't kill them, well, that's Dalai Lama also. So he's very worldly. Oh, the Inquisition. That's why I decided to make this video. It's for the record, and they'll probably delete it from the internet to claim I never said this, but I really want to clarify my position at this point in time. And I want to be really fair to the Jews also, because I'm the last person I want to have accused of persecuting anybody, especially people who are different, because I really respect and admire people who are different. When I was in Vienna, it's probably the first time I saw an Orthodox Jew, in the sense of their hair and their hats and their Versace, suits. And I thought they were cool because they were individual. And of course we're talking Monty Python, Life of Brian. We're all individuals. And then there's that one guy who calls out, I'm not. I've watched the Life of Brian so many times now. You have to watch it many, many times. People who thought it was somehow malicious against Jesus just haven't watched it, because Brian is not Jesus. That's the whole point. Jesus' character is in the film, but they're not making fun of him. They're making fun of people and religion, and that's why they got in trouble, or that's why there was some sort of, whether they made it seem like they were being banned and censored, I don't know, to get publicity. But watch that film, The Life of Brian. It's just full of really, really, really funny sketches. But yeah, we're all individuals. So it's ironic that I say that I admire them for having the courage to be individual, when in fact the reason they were dressed like that is because they don't have the courage to be individuals. It's very hard to be individual. It's very hard. If I didn't reject this world, there's no way I could stand here as any sort of role model, because of how to win friends and influence people. I'm the role model for how to do the opposite. How to fail in this world. It's really hard to keep remembering that you don't want to succeed in this world, because, and this is where St. Francis of Assisi's ideas, where people who whip themselves and punish themselves and don't wear shoes and don't eat and starve and all this kind of stuff. The idea being that you don't become attached to this world, that you associate this world with bad things and not just with the illusory short-term pleasures it offers. Watch my earlier video if you can endure it. This won't be the same topic about the Cathari and people like that who reject, and Buddha. Okay, so I have to say, Buddha, you win. You've won. If this was a Socratic dialogue, I'd have to say, Buddha, yep. Okay, you have the last word. But the main thing is that you have to find your own path to the truth. Seek the truth. Even if there's no truth, you have to seek it. It's about being honest. So, what I want to do now is basically clarify something. Now, I've made videos where I said the Jews who brought you the Great Depression and World War I and World War II and 9/11, well, they did. The people who orchestrated those events were from the cult of Judah, and most of them were Jewish. But here we come to the really important thing, that the Jews, the emancipated Jews, the people who are cultural Jews, who think of being Jewish as a cultural thing, not a religious thing. They don't believe they're the chosen people. They don't believe that they have special rights. They're not planning to enslave us. The emancipated Jew. So we shouldn't pick on them and give them any reason to think that the propaganda they've been told is true. They are not our enemy. The enemy are everybody who's working with the cult of Judah, who I call Koja, cult of Judah agents / affiliates. And these include the Catholic Church, the Vatican, most religion, especially the Zionist Christians. Christianity is part of the cult of Judah, Islam is part of the cult of Judah, Marxism is of course a product of the cult of Judah. And there are more of these people around you who are doing you damage in the Catholic Church and the other Christian churches, and in Islam and social Marxists. There are more people like that who are actually doing damage to you personally, who are producing problems for you, and who are going to make huge problems for you, and who fight in the wars and make the wars possible. There are more of them than there are any active cult of Judah Jews in the world that are causing you a problem. The cult of Judah Jews, the Pharisees, if you want to call them that, and the top elites in the Catholic Church, of course, and all the other churches, the top elites, the leaders of America and Russia and Germany and France and Australia, they are all working for the cult of Judah, and most of them aren't. It doesn't matter if they're Jewish or not, if they identify as Jewish, or if you might identify them as Jewish, makes no difference. They're working for the cult of Judah. Some of them know they are, some of them don't know they are. But the point is, they're happy to claim that the ends that they have in their mind justify the means. And they are the people who carried out 9/11. They are the people who carried out the Oklahoma City bombing. They are the people who carried out the Ruby Ridge assassinations, basically. They are the people who made it possible, like Wilson and Roosevelt and Churchill. They are the ones who made it possible for the cult of Judah to bring about what happened in World War I and World War II. Now, of course, the Kaiser of Germany was quite happy to have World War I, an excuse for World War I. The kings and princes, and up till then, had always considered war to be legitimate, like a business transaction. You send your stupid people out to kill each other, and people, for some reason, are quite happy to kill each other. They get sick of it after 5 years because it is not as much fun as they thought it would be. And they become hungry and cold and miserable, and the mud and the pain and suffering and misery and the cost. But it's the people who fight the wars that make it possible. If people showed the same courage they had in facing a bayonet charge or a machine gun, if they showed the same courage in facing their own government and said no, our constitution says we're not supposed to be doing this, and I see no reason to do it. And okay, if the Europeans are killing each other and fighting, then let them learn their lesson, and they will. World War I, now I don't know what would have happened if America had stayed out of World War I, but my understanding, I don't know, but my understanding is there would have been a ceasefire and armistice. There would have been no Treaty of Versailles. There would have been no changes of boundaries, and maybe the Europeans would have said, our kings, we don't need them. War, we don't want it. And there would have been no World War II. World War II was a product of the Treaty of Versailles. And the Depression. Let's face it, if your life is really miserable and you hate your life, then any offer, and the only offer you're going to get probably, to travel and see the world and do something interesting and different, at the time, the only real chance people had of escaping their life that they inherited was war. So you can understand people are excited. And if you tell people you can be a hero, you can protect the little country. Anyway, there's sort of propaganda, but it appeals to people and the situation. And if you produce a depression and make life really, really tough, then war will seem like an escape at first. And don't forget, America, if it was not for America, most of France and Italy would not have been destroyed at all. The destruction in World War II would have been quite limited if America had not become involved. And I deal with the facts of that. And it was Jewish people who got Wilson and Roosevelt and Churchill to fight those wars to destroy Germany. That's the fact. I'm not going to make excuses, but saying it was Jews who did that doesn't mean every Jew is guilty. It's like saying I am guilty for original sin. That's absurd. It's like blaming me for something my Anglo-Saxon ancestors did 500 years ago, or for what the British did to the Australian Aborigines. Blaming me for that is silly. So even though it was Jewish people that did bring about the Great Depression and the Federal Reserve and World War and what happened after World War I and the fact of World War II, and the continuation of World War II, which is the continuing war, the war in Iraq and 9/11, and like I said, Oklahoma City bombing. This Zionists and Christian Zionists and American CIA and mercenaries and corrupt people who don't really care, you know, what they do as long as they get paid well. Blaming Jews generally is like blaming me for what Germany did in World War I to your family. Anyone who's actually anti-Semitic is an idiot. Irrationally hating someone just because they're Jewish is just stupid, and I have nothing to do with such people. But maybe some people like that exist. I have not met one yet. But I do have to be honest that I've met very arrogant Jews, but I've also met Jews that I just fell in love with because they were just like me. I mean, in the sense of being open-minded and liberal and really thinking, you know. So I've met both types of Jews, and Germans too. I've met both types of Germans. I've met beautiful Germans that you fall in love with, and I've met the typical archetype, you know, of the arrogant German bureaucrat, the Prussian, you know. So I want to make it very clear. One thing people have to understand is that there seriously are people out there who think the best thing you can do is add evil to this world. And if you think about the idea of rejecting this world, and about St. Francis of Assisi whipping himself and starving himself and not wearing shoes or warm clothing, and the ascetics who deliberately suffer pain, inflict pain on themselves and unnecessary suffering, what they're trying to do is reject the world, to reject their attachment to this world, to, you know, snip the desire for this world so that they can escape this world. And there's a Torah tradition in which it says the Messiah, that's our salvation, will only come when this earth is completely full of evil, and who believe that if they perform acts of evil, they speed up the coming of the Messiah. And this is really hard for people to get their head around, but there are some people with good intentions, the best intentions, doing evil. It's perverse to me, to my understanding, but then I also think St. Francis of Assisi was perverse. I loved him for his acceptance and love of animals and rocks and trees, but he was very sexist of course at first, and he was very narcissistic. The idea that, oh look at me God, I'm suffering, aren't you impressed? That's the ultimate in narcissism. Why on earth would God care if you're suffering? You don't need to inflict suffering on yourself. If you want to be humble, then go and suffer for other people. There are millions of ways that you can neglect yourself and suffer and by helping other people. You don't have to deliberately starve yourself. Just eat really simple food and maybe donate the money you save to charities, to people who have no food. You don't have to deliberately get sick and wear rags. You can buy second-hand clothing like I wear that people don't want. I give away lots of clothing too, so I understand people giving away new clothing, and I buy it for $2 sometimes. And people have bought my brand new $100 boots maybe for $5 at a shop. So if you're whipping yourself, it's really, really, really narcissistic and really perverse and stupid. That if you want to go out and do something productive, digging a hole in the cold wind is very uncomfortable, and it can help someone who wants the hole to be dug. So don't bother whipping yourself when you can actually do something really humble and humility-wise. Okay, so the point that was a Torah tradition. There's a tradition of rejecting the world, which I agree with now, but not in the sense of unnecessarily and narcissistically, like, oh, look at me, I'm hurting, wow, I'm making myself suffer, aren't I special? The whole world is full of suffering, you don't need to add to it. And if you want to live a hard life, to maybe redeem yourself, then do something productive for people. Live a hard life. Go work for people for nothing. Work with people who have a tough life. Help them. You can suffer enough just by trying to help people, and you'll be doing something productive. Even though, ironically, this is a really complex, sophisticated, subtle thing. Rejecting the world doesn't mean you go and add evil to it, as far as I understand it. It's not about destroying something. It's not about wearing a frown, oh, the world is terrible, kill myself, kill yourself, and hating. No. It's about compassion and empathy. When you have that, you'll suffer more than you can imagine because of the suffering in the world. And instead of focusing on your own pleasure and relief, you reject the world by rejecting selfishness and rejecting ego and rejecting greed. Those are the things you destroy and reject. I want to call my band The Death of Me, and if nobody has taken the band name The Death of Me, that's the band name I'll use. As in the saying, you'll be the death of me, I sort of lost track of what I was getting at. It's very subtle. Don't want to add negativity to the world. It's negative enough. You can reject the world and still go around smiling and being nice to people. And when people are really malicious and nasty to me, now I deliberately go out of my way to be nice to someone who's been a real bitch to me. I deliberately try to find something small I can do. I help people push their cars out of the snow. I'm nice to the woman who was really, really bitchy to me. And she actually smiled, and in Russian she said, "You're welcome," when I said thank you. But I want people to understand that. I said that when you reject the world, you don't walk around with a smile on your face and with a glow about you. But in a sense, well, that was ugly. In a sense, you do, because you're not rejecting life. You're rejecting this world. You're rejecting evil. You're rejecting opportunism. You're rejecting selfishness. You're rejecting cruelty. You're rejecting dogma. You're rejecting the inquisition. You're rejecting lies. You're rejecting deception. You're rejecting propaganda. All these things you're rejecting. And look, I'm smiling, because what you are embracing is the quest for truth, the quest for justice. Even though you know it's not possible in this world. You have to understand that. You really have to understand that. Okay, I can be wrong about this, but I see zero hope of this world developing utopia. And if you read the utopian ideas people have had, they really are creating a prison. Thomas More, his utopia was a prison, an open-air prison where you couldn't go further than the extent of your village. And it's always the case that people who think they're really clever are really just manifesting their own desire to control other people and to have things their way and that suit them. Thomas More was one of those people who would whip themselves and then go out and happily burn people alive because they disagreed with him. And then write a book called Utopia. It's where we burn people alive who disagree with us. Isn't that an idea of utopia? Imagine that. Someone disagrees with you? Burn them alive. Very satisfying for some people, yeah? suddenly you find consensus and peace. Peace. Because everyone's terrified to even, which is what we've got now. People don't say what they think or what they feel. You can't handle the truth, you know. Okay, so back to my friends the Jews. Now, seriously, I welcome any Jew to make friends with me, make contact with me, work with me. I want to work with them. I really want to go to Israel, and I want to work in a kibbutz, and I want to be among the emancipated Jews, because I really think they are really among the most advanced humans that have ever existed, the emancipated Jews. And whether the women are more beautiful, I'm not so sure, but there are many beautiful Jewish women, and it's a shame that I would be put in jail for wanting to have a Jewish wife or whatever. Lover, you know, friend, girlfriend, or that they would be punished in some way. But you know, every race makes claims about itself, and we all want to believe we're the chosen people. Especially the lower your self-esteem, the more you need to really grab onto something to hold onto and say, I'm special. You know, I'm the lowest, most despised person in my group, in my community, in my nation, but I'm still superior because I'm one of them. I'm one of us in our nation. So yeah, I tried to get Palestinians and Jews to work together, Israelis to work together on a Eurovision project, but no one's interested. I'll work on that song myself. I'm really happy with that song. Thanks to someone in Israel who may be Mossad, for all I know, I sort of have a bit more confidence in my singing voice now, and I've listened to my own recordings, and I'm much less critical, and I've listened to raw recordings of really famous singers, and I think I can sing well enough not to be ashamed, not to feel that I'm harming anybody by singing. So I will be singing, and I will be recording my songs. But this was for the record, yeah. I digress, really. It's not Germanic, is it, to have really long sentences and long paragraphs that go on forever. Okay, so yeah, this is for the Inquisition, and this for every Jew and for every anti-Semite and every idiot out there who wants to blame, who claims, oh, if there were no Jews in the world, everything would be perfect. Yeah, right. It's just obviously wrong. Jewish is just a group of people. It's just a term people made up to define a group for political reasons. You know, remember King Herod? He declared war on the Pharisees, on the Kohanim, on the cult of Judah. King Herod the Great, he's the one who slaughtered an entire city of Kohanim, or cult of Judah priests, because he saw the damage they were doing. King Herod tried to emancipate the Jews. The Jews have been fighting the cult of Judah much longer than anybody else, and they have suffered more because of the cult of Judah than anybody else. They haven't suffered more than anybody else in general. That's rubbish. And I just want to tell Jewish people something. This little secret, yeah? That when bad shit happens to you, it's not because you're Jewish. When bad things happen to you, when people are malicious, nasty, cruel, horrible, when people discriminate against you, it's not because you're Jewish. I promise you that I've suffered every form of discrimination possible, and I'm not Jewish. People did not have to, if I was Jewish, they may have used it as an excuse, you know, some people use it, but they'll look for any excuse. It doesn't matter. If you move around the world, which Jews tend to do more than other groups, and maybe that's wrong too, because the whole world is full of Irish and Italians and Germans and Estonians and Russians now. So, but if you move around the world, people they're opportunistic. If you're different in some way, they use that as an opportunity to be nasty to you, to, 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 to be creative. So So if you think that the nasty things people have done to you are because you're Jewish, I promise you it's not true. This is my secret. I've been in many countries, and usually from appearance I can fit in, because in most countries there are people who look like me. I had people speak to me in Greek, Russian, German, Lithuanian, Estonian, every sort of European type language, and assuming that I was a native. So, and I promise you that even in Australia, in Germany, I get treated as an Australian, and people hate me for that reason. That's their excuse. They say, "Oh, you're lucky. You're from Australia. What are you doing here? We're jealous, envious. Sorry, jealousy is different." In Australia, people hate me because I'm smart and ambitious and poor and working class. If you're poor, working class, and my voice, okay, I don't have the best speaking voice. I do have a speech impediment and a lazy way of speaking. And I grew up saying fuck every second word, and news. It took me a long time to break the habit of saying news. The expression news is really old. It's like reckon, I reckon. It's also very old. It's not Australian. News and I reckon are not working class Australian terms, but when you use them in Australia, people think you've used working class. And if you're working class and dressed really badly with a really bad haircut, and you have a lisp, and you speak like a feral almost, but you also happen to be really, really smart and top your courses and win prizes and win every argument almost that you have, even with lecturers, then people will find that reason to hate you. And you don't have to be Jewish for people to persecute you. That's what I want to say to people who feel they have a special position of suffering and misery and persecution in this world. People are opportunistic. Whatever excuse they can find to play with as a strategy, as a tool, they will play with that. They will seek it out. If you're Asian in Australia, they might use that. But then the same Chinese Manchurian who goes, I don't know correctly, but if you're from a certain part of China and go to another part of China, the people will be just as racist to you as the Australian might be, or the German might be, to the Chinese person. So please get over this idea that you're specially persecuted, and that the reason people do nasty, horrible things to you is because you're Jewish. It's not because you're Jewish. It's just because people do that to everybody. And if you're different, they'll find that difference and they'll opportunistically try to exploit it, whatever that difference is. They want to justify to themselves the bad things they're doing to you, so they seek to demonize you in some way. And so some people will say, "Oh yeah, you're a Jewish, you killed Jesus. That's the reason I'm exploiting you now. Haha, it's justice." Rubbish. For me, they'll look at me and say, "Oh, you're Australian, not really German. That's the reason we're gonna, that's justice too. How dare you come here from Australia? Or you're smart. How dare you be smart? That's the reason we're justified in doing bad things to you." So get over that. Forget about that. It's not because you're Jewish. But maybe some anti-Semitic people. I've never met one, so I can't say if they exist or not. But people will find some excuse. If you weren't Jewish, they would hate you because your nose is big. If your nose wasn't big, they might hate you because you're rich. If you're not rich, they might hate you because you're smart. If you're not smart, they might hate you because you're nice. You're too nice. You prove that you can be nice, and they feel guilty, and they hate you for that, persecute you, blah blah blah. Remember, the cult of Judah defines assimilation as persecution, because someone's stealing their slaves. Okay, so I just want people to understand something really. I'm not going to pretend that Jews have not been behind some of the worst things in history, recent history. But that doesn't mean that you have an excuse to blame all Jews, just like you have no excuse to blame all Germans or all Lithuanians for some massacre that happened, or all Asians or all whatever for whatever. So I'm not recanting and saying that Zionism is great and Jews are innocent and Jews are the victims. That's not true. What I'm saying is there's more people who are not Jewish who are guilty for all the things that the Jews managed to pull off than there are Jews who are guilty. So to be honest, it's not. If you want to generalize, you should hate your own people. It's your own government especially. It's your own government that sent your children to war, sent you to war. It's your own government that wastes all your money on stupid things. It's your own government that is working with the cult of Judah. It's your own people who are likely to stab you in the back, steal your money, rape you, and your children. There's more pedophiles in the world who are not Jewish, guaranteed. Just because the Torah says something about 3-year-old girls, you could find more examples of people who have nothing to do with the cult of Judah who are pedophiles than has got anything to do with the Torah or the Talmud people. So it's not about me blaming the Jews as a whole for anything, but the particular people who orchestrated particular huge, big, bad things happen to be Jewish, and the motivation can be traced back to their indoctrination by the cult of Judah. They were working for the cult of Judah, whether they knew it or not. So many famous philosophers and writers have talked about that the Jews express the best and the worst, and they're responsible for the best and the worst things that have happened. King Henry VIII wasn't Jewish. The Tsars and the Kaisers weren't Jewish. They would have fought their wars without backing from Jewish banks, but they would. But the thing Adam Smith and I think David Hume made clear was that without bankers financing wars, and even in Germany they put down the rebellion of the peasants. The Germans would have had their freedom decades earlier if bankers hadn't financed the putting down of the rebellions, the financing mercenaries to kill hundreds of thousands of German peasants to stop them revolting. These are facts. It's very hard to fight a war if you make people pay for it in advance. You pretend, oh don't worry, it won't cost anything, we'll borrow the money, and when we win the war, we'll get the other people to pay it back. If there were no banksters, war would be very different and wouldn't last very long. And Germans would have had their freedom earlier. The Germans don't want their freedom, they're giving it away. She's like, hey, we don't want freedom, we're Germans, we'll defame our ancestors. We'll demonize our own people. We'll hate ourselves. That's Germans. I don't want to be. I'm not German. No, thank you. I have a German passport still because I need it to live here in Estonia. But the moment I can get a different passport from another country, I will do that if I can do that. But it's very hard to get citizenship, and even to give up citizenship. Okay, so what I set out to do with this, and I'm not editing it because I don't have the energy. I'm working on my music now, but I'm just hoping to recap, and I just want people to maybe I should have shaved and stuff, yeah. But camera, the screen went off. I'm not ranting and raving. I'm really just trying to clarify something. That I welcome contact with Jews, and definitely I'm not anti-Semitic in the sense that people say. I do love Jews, probably more than generally have a higher opinion of them than I do of most other peoples, because I do share the values of the emancipated Jews, the liberalism. I'm all against racism and sexism, and they say Tel Aviv is the vegan capital of the world, so if I could I would go to Israel, but I've been warned against going to Israel. I've been told that they would check all my Facebook and Twitter accounts, and they would see my postings, and I could get in really big trouble, either in Israel itself, or they could just hold me and contact German and Australian authorities and say, look, we've got this guy who's written these books. So I probably won't get to go to Israel, even though I want to. And this is a serious offer to any school in Israel, especially a kibbutz. If they want an English teacher, music teacher, guitar teacher, singing coach, we'll see about that. A vegan worker, someone. I'd love to work in a vegan industry to help develop vegan products and promote vegan products and promote a vegan lifestyle. So anybody in Israel who's could offer me a host place, a place where I can live, and explain to anybody who causes trouble for me why I'm there, and then please contact me. I'll get on a cheap flight to Tel Aviv tomorrow. Nothing keeping me here. Yeah, so I just want the Inquisition. They will just twist and play if they feel like it. If the Inquisition decides to destroy me, they will. It's just too easy. But I just want people to clarify for people that hating any group of people is just stupid. You judge each person on their own merits, and almost everybody has really stupid, dangerous ideas, and there's no monopoly on that. There's no monopoly on malice, there's no monopoly on arrogance, there's no monopoly on stupidity. Every people has committed atrocities against other people. Every people have invaded other countries and stolen their territory. What we did, Australians, did to the Aborigines, what the British did to the Australian Aborigines was genocide. But literally in Tasmania, where I also lived, it was successful genocide. They killed every Aboriginal that lived there. Every culture is full of people trying to steal from you and trick you and deceive you and enslave you. And this is why the cult of Judah has been so successful. It speaks volumes for human nature that the Old Testament is respected and revered, because it's the most horrific document I could imagine, and it's the last thing I'd want anybody to have respect for. But that's human nature. Most of the world is run by people who have taken either an evil cult idea and run with it and spun off their own little version of it, or they've taken really good ideas like Buddhism and they've twisted that even, so that you have Dalai Lamas who really kings living in luxury, pretending to be reincarnated Buddhas. It's absurd. You build something good, and then people will use that for evil ends. So building something is counterproductive too. There's nothing special about. Okay, even though I admire so many Jews as musicians and performers, David Lee Roth, Neil Diamond, so many Hollywood producers and actors, even a few philosophers. Even though I admire them, there's nothing, I'll just say this to be fair to everyone, there's nothing special about the Jews in any way whatsoever, either for good or for evil. But the cult of Judah has had a strategy in place for thousands of years, and they've been following this strategy for thousands of years, and they've been carefully choosing particular types of people to produce particular situations. The cult of Judah, because it's so closely associated with the Jews, that is what's brought this reputation on the Jews as being special. Okay, maybe, I don't know, I'll have to check, but are there more creative Hollywood producers who are Jewish than are not? There's a lot of Jewish performers and musicians and artists, but I don't think more than any other cultural group. But in banking and finance and politics, they have the ascendancy, because the cult of Judah has been training and preparing and conditioning and selecting and pre-selecting and nurturing and people for thousands of years, and they're very, very, very good at these things. Anything to do with money and finance and propaganda and psychological manipulation. It's a cult. That's what a cult is. A cult is psychological manipulation. It's magic, abracadabra, using words to control and manipulate people, making things happen, turning worthless paper into gold. Not even lead. You can sell lead, it's real. Lead is valuable. They went on from the alchemy of turning lead into gold into turning paper into gold. Literally, they print paper and they buy gold with this paper. So this is where particular Jews have the power, and they do control the media. Not these Jews do control the media. They do control the world's finance, and they have occupied your government. This is not to say that the average Jewish person has anything to do with these people. It will be like saying that the Kaiser promoted the war, World War I, and the Kaiser was German and I'm German and blaming me for what the Kaiser did. If you blame a normal average Jewish person for what the banksters do, or what your occupation government does, it's totally wrong. Don't do that. It will be like blaming me for what the Kaiser did, or even what some Lithuanian SS squad did, because they're associated with Germans. So I'm basically saying Jews are not special, even though I do admire lots of you. And I want people to stop thinking of them as a special group and to focus on the real problem. And the real problem is the system that we've set up. And you are the real problem. I'm the real problem. What we do, our choices, we make the world. You can't go simply blame somebody else for what we have produced. We can change the world if we wanted to. People don't seem to want to. I have to accept that now. I don't have to, but I'm trying to, you know. But okay, this was a point I was trying to get back to earlier about rejecting this world. You have to distinguish between this world and life, this life and life, and between this self, this human nature, and what you could be and what you aspire to be. So rejecting this world isn't about destroying things. Even though I want to be the death of this world, I only want to be the death of this world so I can resurrect a new world. This is what, you know, all the archetypes of death and resurrection. Like in winter is the death of the world so that spring can come. You destroy an old dogma and bring in something new and better, and you evolve, hopefully, and progress. So rejecting this world isn't about, and it sounds negative because philosophers criticize, and you're negative, you're such a negative person, you're criticizing everything. Well, criticize yourself first, which I do, and then, even though you reject the world, even though this is back to the Torah thing, Talmud thing about increasing the evil in the world to bring the Messiah, to accelerate the return of the Messiah or the coming of the Messiah. I don't believe in doing bad things. I believe in doing good things, even though they're futile. I don't believe in looking at yourself and saying, oh, look at me, I'm special, I'm suffering, and narcissistic wise. Do good things, even though it's in vain, even though it's totally futile. Even though I know the people that I help today are just as likely to stab me in the back tomorrow. Even though I know the people are smart and are nice to, are talking about me behind my back really mean and nasty and maliciously. Even though I know these things, and you can know that for sure too. You don't do good things because you think you can perfect the world. You do good things because you want to perfect yourself, so that you can evolve and change your resonant frequency, so you can manifest. Now you can't manifest so many good things in this world. What you will manifest is other people's reaction, and most of that will be negative and destructive and violent and cruel. That's the sad fact. When you have moral ambitions and try to do good things, you will manifest in this world, because this world wasn't about this world isn't about that. This world is about what we see in history, this world. So what I say is, and how I try to live, is to, even though I know that anything good I do is going to be used by evil people. So I could start a vegan farm and it will be taken over by really evil, nasty people who just use it to make money. I could set up a religion, and then some evil people would come along and take control of that religion. I could set up a vegan nation, and we would build something wonderful, and then people would come in and enslave us. You can donate money to a charity and then find that the directors of that charity are laughing at you and spending all your money on luxuries, even on cruel luxuries. So when I say reject the world, and to be the death of this world and the death of me, I mean that positively, not for you. You should continue being what you want. Set the agenda. You want to be positive. You want to behave how you wish other people would behave. But they're not going to. And anything good you do is going to probably be used against you. No good deed goes unpunished. And people will take advantage of you, and you have to accept that. And it breaks your heart, but and you'll be desolate and in despair. as long as you don't expect anything good to come of your behavior, you do it because you intend good, because you want something good for other people and for yourself. You don't do it because you expect other people will reciprocate. And this is really, really hard, this lack of reciprocation. You have to be careful. If, like me, if you're too generous and want to make a point of being generous, people use it, and you can easily end up with nothing, and then you're a slave. So be careful about who you help, and maintain your independence. Don't expose yourself to being abused, and don't rely on people's reciprocation. Have contracts, and you have to do the things the way the world does things. But you can still smile and be friendly with people and try to help them in little ways. Doesn't matter. Even the person who was being nasty to you, if you see them and they need someone to help them push their car. You don't have to feel warm and fuzzy about it. You can think, this guy's a fucker, really. But hey, maybe by me pushing his car, he might make the world somehow better. He might have a better attitude, But what's really key, what's really important is that you don't become bitter and twisted. That you set the agenda. Your agenda in this world is to be what you wish the world would be. To be positive and compassionate and kind and treat other people how you wish they would treat you, even though you can be almost certain they're not going to. So you have to be careful how far you go with overextending and overexposing yourself. You can be sure people will take advantage of you opportunistically, but you didn't enter this world and you haven't decided that you're just going to make life miserable for other people and produce harm in this world. You decided you want a better world. You want to be a better person. You want to inherit a better world next time. Even now, you wish you could make this world, perfect this world and ennoble people, but maybe this place isn't designed even for that. Maybe the purpose of this place is as a teaching ground, as a lesson. So adding evil to the world isn't the solution, and don't expect that by doing good that you'll correct the world. There's just too many errors here in this world. It's a predatory world, opportunistic world. Evolution is binge and purge, has no heart, no compassion. Death is the only compassion it offers to the misses, to the victims of the world. But that doesn't mean you have to walk around going, look at me, I'm sad, the world sucks, people suck, I hate people, oh, you're all evil. Because you won't feel good. Unless some people seem to find that satisfying. It's a mystery to me. This malice people love to hate. I don't love to hate. I remember my mother used to be really racist about Asians, and because they really irritated her for some reason, and it was funny to see her getting so upset. But people choose like David Hume and Freud say, people choose somebody to hate. They need somebody to hate and somebody to love, and they find somebody to hate, and somebody to project their own problems on opportunistically, But it's just funny that, how my mother would be irritated about Asians because I didn't speak English, and even though she didn't really learn English either. So, So the point being, just to make it clear, I love Jews as much as I love anybody else, and you're not special. Jews are not special. They're not specially evil or specially good. But because of their close association with the cult of Judah, which is pure evil and is the perfection of mind control. And you just wait to see how perfect they have this mind control. And I can't even say whether they have good or bad intentions. I know they've done really bad things, and I judge people not on their supposed intentions, not on what they claim they believe, not on their supposed ends, but on the means they employ. You should judge people by the means, not by what they claim the reason they're doing it, because the ends do not justify the means. Bad means are bad, simple. So I can only go on what the cult of Judah has done. And when you see things like 9/11 and Oklahoma City bombing and Iraq and Palestine and the total destruction of Germany and the defamation of Germans and putting people like me in prison and in the inquisition, I'll judge them on their actions. And even though they may believe all these things are necessary and that their ends, maybe they will make this world a much better place. It's possible that even though they use evil means, that their outcomes will be good. But in the short term, the means they employ are going to shock people. And well, no, they won't shock people, because you can't do worse than Dresden. It's not possible. You can't firebomb a city full of refugees, including Jewish refugees, and American and British and Allied soldiers, prisoners. You can't firebomb a city with hundreds of thousands of people in it, defenseless, no air raid protection at all. You can't firebomb men, women and children, and then when the emergency workers come out to try to save people, machine gun them from fighter planes, and then go to the parks where people are seeking refuge and machine gunning people in the park, and then machine gunning people with fighter jets in the zoo and killing zoo animals. You can't tell me you can get worse than that, and that's what the Allies did in Dresden. It's just pure evil, and they were British and American. So, you know, it wasn't a Jewish bomber pilot or Jewish fighter pilot in Britain or American Air Force, I'm sure. They were all people like you and me, with German ancestors even, European ancestors. They weren't Asians, they weren't Jewish, they weren't Africans, they weren't Muslims, they were Islamic, that's for sure. So I think Dresden proves that evil isn't a monopoly on any group. But that's just one example of Dresden. I won't mention the Holocaust because this will get banned, and you know, but it's the biggest. I'm not going to say anything more pointless. You can read all my books if you can find them. If you're not willing to look for my books and read them, then I'm not going to bother wasting my time repeating arguments. So basically, please remember that we're all human, we're all guilty. None of us are special, none of us, just because we belong to some particular group, are special, either especially evil or especially good. Judge each person on their merits. Don't make any assumptions. Just because someone says they're German doesn't mean they're a Nazi. Just because someone's Jewish doesn't mean they believe in what the cult of Judah indoctrinates people to do, believe. Yeah, and reject the world as it is, but don't desire to be a slave master. Don't desire something that comes at the cost of suffering for other sentient beings. Just say no to it. And say no to malice, and say no to greed, and say no to selfishness, and say no to cruelty, and say yes to the things you want. And don't fall for any utopian rubbish from people, and definitely do never say the ends justify the means. if you cannot justify the means themselves, if you need to justify your means, then that means that they're wrong, they're evil. If someone says, do something bad for the sake of something good, forget about the supposed good that's supposed to come of this. Say to yourself, this action is bad, I'm not doing it. It's very simple. Reject any means that are not positive. There are positive means for everything. Anytime someone says we need to achieve this ends, but the only possible way is through this means, they're lying. Because there's always an alternative way to achieve the same ends using positive means. And they're trying to trick you into employing negative, evil means. That's the whole point. They're not fighting the war to protect Poland or Belgium. The war is the end in itself. They're using the war as a means to their own ends. If someone says we need to be cruel to animals, to experiment on them, they're probably trying to get you to commit evil atrocities. Because it's what evil does. Evil tries to seduce other people into behaving evilly. The worse people can make you feel about yourself, the easier you are to manipulate. If you give up hope in yourself, you give up hope in the world, 100%, but have 100% faith in yourself. Think of yourself as the caterpillar, or we talk about the butterfly and the caterpillar or whatever. Like, caterpillars can be beautiful too. So, but basically we think that the butterfly is the beauty and the caterpillar is the beast. Think of yourself, this body, as the caterpillar, and the soul, the thing you want to become, is the butterfly. And the butterfly destroys the caterpillar, it eats up everything in the cocoon, and it nourishes itself on the ugly, and eats it away totally destroys it, to become the butterfly and fly away. And that's what you need to do with this world. You reject evil, reject this idea of using cruel means. You can't employ means which you can't justify in themselves. If an action is bad, in any context, it's bad. To say it's bad, but in this context it's good because it's justified by the ends, it's just a game. If the means are not good, and you couldn't proudly do this, I wrote this somewhere and I was pretty happy with it, and I just remembered it's one of the few positive contributions I've actually made to philosophy. If someone says do X because of Y, and you do it because of Y, that's wrong. If you would not do X, if X is not good in itself, if the means you employ are not good in themselves, then don't do them. Because they say do this evil X and you'll get this good Y. Usually it's a lie. There is no connection between X and Y, or doing X does not produce Y. Yeah, you don't get peace through war. You don't get justice by behaving unjustly to anybody. So if you would not proudly stand up and say to the whole world and to your future self, to your future children, to your own children, to your ancestors, to your God, if you want to use that sort of thinking, if you can't proudly stand up and say, I'm going to do X, if you can't do that without justifying X by referring to some Y, if you can't justify it in itself and say, I'm doing this X, if you can't say that proudly and feel good about it, don't do it. Because they're going to tell you, do evil to produce good. And it's a lie. There never ever has evil produced good. It never has. You can say taking a medicine that tastes bad can make you better. There's nothing intrinsically bad about evil, about bad tasting medicine. And when you vomit and you feel better afterwards, it's also not the same analogy. When people say, we'll torture this person to save these people from suffering, well, obviously torture is not good. You just say no. Because the connection between torturing and the benefit isn't a fact. And even if it was a fact, you'd only be torturing one person, inflicting pain on one person to save another person from suffering. Because, anyway, I go into that detail. So, basically, all you Jews out there, please work with me to save us and you, the Jews, from the cult of Judah. All of you people fighting the cult of Judah who too closely identify Jews with the cult of Judah, please remember that most Jews are not cult of Judah agents or affiliates. And you can't blame people for being born into a culture. It's very hard to escape a culture. Just vaguely, someone who's born Catholic or born Muslim or born Jewish, it's the same thing. Most people, it makes no difference to their life whether they're Muslim or Christian or Jewish. They just happen to associate culturally in some way with being German or Australian or Italian or Catholic or Buddhist or Jewish. So make a real effort to not be prejudiced, not to assume anything, not to prejudge anybody just because they're Muslim or Christian or Jewish, or even Buddhist, because often means nothing at all. And as I say, reject the world, but be the person you want to be, that you would ideally be. Become the person you want to be. You can only save yourself. You can help other people save themselves, maybe, by doing the sorts of things that other people did that helped you. Explaining things to people maybe sometimes helps, but don't expect the power of one. Don't expect if you build it, they will come, and don't expect that doing good things will make people like you, and don't expect people to reciprocate. But you have to be truly independent and set the agenda yourself. If you want to smile at somebody without making fun of them or without provoking them, and be friendly and kind to somebody, even though they're a total bitch to you, do it. Don't let somebody else stop you from being good and kind and compassionate. And it will break your heart how people respond. And it is futile, probably. As far as I understand, futile, hopeless. It might not be. Maybe what you do makes a difference. Maybe you will be the one that changes the whole world. But probably not. But don't do it because of the consequences. Don't say, oh, the world's evil, so I'm going to be evil. Or the world's evil, so I'm just going to go around hating everybody. I hate you. That's not the response that's ideal. You'll feel like that maybe, and sometimes you just won't be able to face the world. And I'll be a hypocrite to tell you to face the world when I'm like in my cave here, and I just avoid the world mostly, much as I can. But I do try to be positive as much as I can, and when people do nasty, malicious things to me, I try to respond positively to other people and do something good, because it's not about them, it's about you. It's not about this world, it's about you. You want to manifest in yourself the things that you want to manifest. You can't expect to manifest them in the world. It's a different thing. The world and you. The world is one thing, you are another thing. You can set as your goal to rise above this world, to escape this world, to manifest the you want to be. This is what manifestation is, I think, in reality. That you can manifest in yourself, but I don't think you can manifest in the world, in this world. You will manifest your next lives and your current state. Okay, so anyway, I don't no idea how long this was. I'm sorry if people expected something else. I'm not sorry. I mean, I think I made a few valid points. I'm trying to get to the things that are really important and to avoid getting stuck where they want us to be stuck. The cult of Judah wants people stuck in little ghettos. They want people hating each other. They want people having no trust in each other. They want people fearing each other. They want people blaming each other. They want people, one group blaming another group. They want to keep us ignorant, and they want to keep us selfish and greedy and malicious and cruel. They want us to behave as badly as possible. They want us to be nasty to each other, because they win when you do any of those things. If you're racist or sexist or homophobic or Islamophobic or anti-Semitic, if you're any of those things, or anti-German or anti-Goy or anti-philosopher, anti-Marcus, if you're any of these things, then they benefit, and they laugh every time you cry. Every time you hate, they love it. They benefit from it. Don't blame other people, blame yourself. Blame your own government, blame your own people, blame your own religion, because I promise you, if any community, if any religion, if any government, any country actually started behaving ethically and not corrupt and opportunistically, they would free themselves from the cult of Judah, but they would probably be destroyed pretty soon after. They can't allow anyone to be successful in this way. They can't allow freedom anywhere, because if I succeeded in my vegan nation, they would co-opt it for sure. If somehow I did free myself and a lot of people from the cult of Judah, they would demonize us. We would become the biggest, most evil nation in the world. They would, in their propaganda, they would accuse us of eating our own babies. They would accuse us of slavery. They would accuse us of having chemical weapons and weapons of mass destruction. They would accuse us of manipulating markets. They would accuse us of everything possibly evil, and they would destroy us. They would nuke us, very simply. There would be no chance. So, but the good news is, it doesn't matter. You have to give up this world and this self. You have to give up on it, but not give up on you, the real you, the essential you, if you want to call it your soul or your spirit. The thing that existed before you were you, and will exist after you are now you. That's the thing you have to work on. You want to manifest in your essential self. And you do that by behaving as positively as you can, even in the most evil world. And not worrying so much about what happens to you, because you're going to die. There's no escaping that. Nobody alive now will be alive in 100 years, unless there are some shape-shifting reptilians or something, or they invent something, new technology. So you're all going to die, and you're all going to suffer no matter what you do. So don't take that too much to heart, but use this whole thing as the caterpillar uses the cocoon to become a butterfly. And you won't be a butterfly in this life. In this life they're going to say you're evil, you're bad, there's something wrong with you, there's something bad about you, because you reject them, because you won't do evil, you won't fight the war, you won't be a good slave, you won't go to their church, you won't hate who they tell you to hate. So you're not going to be welcome. But what you have to keep as your end game, your agenda, is the butterfly that you are working to becoming, to manifest in your true self. Not in this world, not in your outer form. You're not going to be beautiful and powerful and vivacious and successful in this world by doing the right thing that you need to do. In this world you'll be punished, and you'll probably be miserable and despairing and lonely. I'm sorry. We should come together and form communities of like-minded people to support each other, but this is an individual process, I think, more than a collective one. So basically, if I'm smiling, it's not because I think the world's a great place and that I'm happy with my life. No. I'm smiling because of what I want to make of myself. And because I see the potential of myself and the potential of everything. It may right now be suffering and miserable and ugly and malicious and hateful and evil. But everyone can manifest something better, and it's a very Zen thing. It's a vague thing, positive anticipation, without any dogma, without any concrete target. I don't have a concrete vision of the perfect Marcus self, future self, in the future world. The current self cannot possibly comprehend things outside its understanding and experience. So it's very Zen, positive anticipation, without fixating on anything. So don't say, I'm going to be happy when I get this, or things will be fine when I have that, or when I achieve that, or when this happens. Because it's not about particular things. We can't imagine what it is going to be, but we know it's good. And you don't have to be empty airhead, like an intoxicated religious fanatic. I'm going to the big place in the sky where all the girls love me and I get to, be a hero or whatever. So don't have any specific, delusion about what is coming for you. But you know when something's positive. You know when something's kind and compassionate and caring. You know when you're doing something that's wrong. Or sometimes you may do things that are wrong without knowing it. But the point is your intention. Whatever you do is going to be wrong, because you're going to die. And everyone's going to die. And the best things you achieve will be used for the most evil purposes. Even your own children can turn out totally different to what you'd hope for them. The best laid plans of mice and men, etc. So, but still be positive, and you know when you're doing something which is what you want to manifest, and you know when you're not. And You should hate evil things, yes, of course, but don't let that hate spill over into you and make you hateful. And don't justify doing bad things because bad things have been done to you. Try to do good. Try to be as positive as you want to be. People aren't going to like it. Reject the world, but still do the things that you would do if in a perfect world, while taking care that you don't become exploited and a slave and overexposing yourself. You need to be independent. If you depend on other people, you will be abused and exploited. So you have to be independent. Anyway, so please, anybody, especially if you Jewish, contact me and see if we can work together. Especially if you're in a kibbutz, a vegan kibbutz. If you're involved in any vegan industry and you think there's a position for me, a job, where I could use my talents to promote the vegan world, please contact me. Also, if you're a drummer or bass player or producer, contact me about my music. And basically, yeah, I guess I'm sort of signing off because I think I've said more than most people want to hear from one person. I mean, come on, who wants to read 26 books from one guy? It's like, sounds a bit too egotistical, doesn't it? Shouldn't be writing so many books. So, but I do want to say that I love Jews, I love Muslims, I love homosexuals, I love Christians, I love Palestinians, I love Israelis, I love cats and dogs and birds, but I hate to see anybody being cruel. I hate cruelty, I hate racism, I hate homophobia, I hate religious dogma. Religion's a bad thing. Organised religion. Every organised religion's a bad thing. I haven't found a good one. So, and I've researched. So yeah, if I have to come before the Inquisition, they'll try to provoke me into saying things so they can put me in prison. And I'll have to be careful of what I say. But I'm not gonna lie and say this historical narrative is truth when we know it's a lie, when we know it's a propaganda. I'm not going to say cult of Judah is great and fantastic and it's good and harmless. I'm not going to say that the Bible and Islam and Christianity are good. So who knows, maybe I'll have to go to prison. But I will also definitely not go out of my way to provoke the Inquisition. You won't hear me talking about certain things. And that is self-censorship, and that's terrible. But I haven't actually censored myself. You've censored me. You are censoring Marcus. Yeah, because I've written 26 books and 600 videos. You're not watching them. You are deciding to censor them or not reading them. So not me, not even the cult of Judah or the Inquisition. My books are there. You can find them for free, cost you nothing at all. And I may be legally obliged to remove videos and books. So I suggest to you that you download the videos and download electronic versions of my books. And if you can afford, then please buy paperback copies of my Amazon books. And you'll find some of my other books have been banned on Amazon, but are still available other places, even where they were banned before. What can I say? Yeah. but that will be for a short time only, probably. So remember, I'm not censoring me. When I come up before the Inquisition, maybe you see me on TV, who knows, maybe I'll become successful, or not successful, you know. Maybe I'll become the next bad guy, or maybe I'll have success with my music and novels and stuff, who knows. And then you'll see me on TV, or you'll hear, and you go, hey, isn't that the guy who said XXX and YYY before? And now he's not saying it, and isn't he a hypocrite? Hasn't he sold out? Isn't he self-censoring? Well, what I'm telling you now is that you are the one censoring me, because you're not downloading my books, you're not seeding my books. My books, I've never found my books or videos as torrents. They're still available, at potentially great risk to myself, and I can't travel to Israel or Australia or Germany without fear of really bad consequences. So you have the chance now to download my videos and my books, and so that even if I remove my books and videos in the future for legal reasons, maybe a record company says there's no way we're going to publish your music or have a contract with you unless you remove these books. So, and I may have to, I may decide to, as being the best thing to do. Don't blame me, because right now you can get all my books for free at Patreon, TRANSGENDER. You'll find links to those books all over my books. You can download every book that I've ever written and every video, and you can seed it. You can share it on your own webpage, you can post it on your own channel, and you can seed it as torrents. You can do that right now. So do not complain in 5 years' time when you see me in public and you say, that guy's a hypocrite, he's sold out, he's not saying all the stuff he used to say. Or maybe he was controlled opposition anyway, maybe it was all a game. It's not. I've taken huge risks and I've spent my whole life doing this, and I've realised it's not going to achieve anything unless you wanted to achieve something. It's not up to me, as my song lyrics say. It's up to me and you. It's up to you and me. I can't do this on my own. So what I'm doing right now is asking you, please download my videos and my books and seed them as torrents. Even if you have to seed all of them, even the books which make me a tiny bit of money, and which in future might have provided me with some income. Seed all my videos and books now while you have the chance, because at any time in the near future, because of the government or because of police or for other reasons, I may remove those books and videos. And the only reason they will not be available is because of you, not because of me. Most of them have been available for up to 5 years. And maybe 100 people bought a copy of one of my banned books. Funny, because they're selling them already unused for 5 times how much they cost. So if you want to make a good investment, maybe you might buy some banned books in paperback, because they are seriously collector's items, if anything is. Because if I am famous and successful, or if I become public enemy number 1, you know, if they need a new public enemy and they make me one, then people who have paperback copies of my books will be holding really rare collector's items. And for different reasons, different people will want to have them. So, you know, you could buy a book now for, I think, $10 paperback, that's really going to be a collector's item, limited edition. Yeah, seriously. And please get those books onto the web as torrents. I can't seed, I have no internet myself, and the local library I've had real nightmares, and they've shut me down, and so now I've got almost no internet access. I don't know if they've done that because of my books on certain topics, or if it's just they don't like me because I'm Marcus, you know, because I'm. If I was Jewish, it would be good. I could say, hey, that's anti-Semitism. You hate me because I'm Jewish. Now, they just hate. People are full of hate, and they look for anybody to hate. So don't think you're special because you're Jewish. Everyone gets hated. Anybody who tries to step out of the line, try to be better, try to rise up, try to be a good person, they're going to come in for a shitload of hate. So, yeah. Okay, so that's me basically signing off. Now you might think I should have dressed up nice, shaved, done my hair nice, got a proper camera and microphone. What's the difference? If I'm successful, then I'll look really pretty on TV, believe me. You know, they won't make me into a pop star or a rock star, I'll do a good job of it. But I won't be able to say any of the things that I've been saying about particular things. And it's up to you now to take this opportunity to download the videos and the books and seed them and keep them available. Because sooner or later either the government will erase them, the publishers will again erase them and blacklist them, or I will actually be either forced to do it by legal threats of violence, or I will decide to do it on my own good judgment. So don't complain. Don't expect me to keep sacrificing everything all the time, because I have other things I need to do in my life, this life. Like I said, I need to become that butterfly. It's going to take a lot of work. And if I can, I'll do everything I can to veganize this planet. And so there's your new reason to hate me, people. I'm going to make the world vegan if I can. Yeah? Even if you don't want it to be. If you want to... I don't believe in... When it comes to veganizing the planet, I don't believe in democracy. It's just something I believe in dogmatically, and I'll do everything in my power to make the world vegan. I won't employ memes, which I don't agree with, of course. But if you gave me the power overnight, as a dictator, I would make this world vegan overnight, immediately, and I wouldn't give a fuck what you had to say about it. Yeah? Don't care what colour you like, don't care, you can take all the drugs you want, have sex with whoever you want, you can live your life exactly how you want, freedom, but I'm not going to let you torture other sentient beings as part of that. So that's where the dictatorial Marcus comes out. So that'll be my ambition, something positive to focus on, to try to do. I've done all the intellectual stuff, all the philosophical stuff, all the ethics stuff, all the historical revisionism, all the political and financial stuff I've done. It's there, it's published. You can access it if you choose to. Now I'm going to focus on music and veganizing the planet. And if you don't understand how important adopting a vegan lifestyle is, then you've really missed the point. And if I spend my whole life just with one person and fail to have them adopt the vegan lifestyle, then I will consider I've wasted my life. So, if after everything I've done and written, you still choose not to be vegan and not to live a vegan lifestyle, then I failed. Then it was pointless. You know, it doesn't really matter whether the Holocaust happened or not, compared to whether or not you become vegan. It doesn't really matter which cult rules this world compared to whether or not you become vegan, because everything is tied up in that issue. If you're not willing to become vegan, you're not going to manifest and become the butterfly. You're gonna, and like I said to the cult of Judah, you're welcome to this world. You're welcome to it. You deserve it. You get what you reap what you sow. Happy day to you. Yeah, I sarcastically meant, of course. Yes, I'm being facetious, Mrs. Adams. Yes. So go vegan. Download all my books and seed them as torrents. Download my videos and seed them as torrents. You can't do that. And I'm gonna face my biggest challenge. Really, something it seems I've been avoiding, because if I fail, that's the end of my dreams, of music. So I guess it's like the girl you never asked out, because if you asked her out and she says no, that's it, you're fucked. You have nothing to dream about. But if you never ask her, you can always imagine, maybe tomorrow she'll be mine. Yeah, happy day. So I've been avoiding my biggest fear, which is music, I think. I've always wanted to make music, even when I had no reason to suspect I had any talent. I've written so many songs now. I hope they haven't been stolen. And when I finally perform, and you say, is that a cover version of what's his name? And I have to spend the rest of my life in court because people stole my songs. Now, I've got some really good songs. I'm really happy with them. I found my voice. I don't know if everybody else will find a reason to want to download it or not, my voice, but I'm happy with it. I'm surprised. This is a case of delusion versus reality, and then delusion becoming reality. I think my music teacher wrote, Marcus appears to enjoy singing. She's like saying, you can't sing. And if I've got some old videos of me, very embarrassing. And I'll be really thank you to my friend Anton. I consider my friend, even though we never met and we've only had very small contact. But your positive comments about my singing voice really made a difference. And I want people to understand that you think you can't, I say the power of one is nothing, that you can't really make a difference. But not to the whole world, but you can make a difference to people. And everything you say and do has an impact on people. Whether you smile or give them a hateful look, whether you say something nasty or something nice, whether you encourage them or whether you discourage them, it does make a difference, and it makes the whole world as it is. And I really think, thanks to Anton, his positive comments about my voice is giving me a bit more confidence to go back and listen to my own recordings and not be so judgmental. And it's made it possible for me to feel positive about singing and to hear the good things in my voice that are there, and to bother getting a proper microphone and making some pop filters and doing some recordings. And I'm not going to have access to the facilities to make top-notch recordings, but if I make, this is my ambition, and something I want the people at PETA to take me seriously, please. People at PETA in America, you haven't taken me seriously. I offered you the copyright for all my books and all my songs, and I think because of the political nature of some of my books, you refused, and that really hurt me. That really broke my heart. That really, because if I die tomorrow, no one's got any interest in my books or music. Nobody will do anything with them. I would have wasted 50 years of work for nothing. So whether or not I manage myself to produce professional quality recordings is not the big issue. Whether or not I have any success and make any money is not the big issue either. What I'm trying to do, what motivates me, is to produce recordings of at least high enough quality so that somebody else will produce professional versions of them, and so that when I do give all these songs and books to PETA, the people for the ethical treatment of animals, or some group like PETA, when I do give them to them, that people can use the songs to actually generate revenue for PETA. So even though I may not have any success in the worldly sense with my music, I just want to do as well as I can with what I have, in the hope that I can leave behind a legacy that's positive, and that somebody else might take up even the novels, which need to be edited a little bit and improved. Someone might take up my novels and books and music and songs and produce them professionally, so that the royalties can go to an organisation like PETA. That's what motivates me. Even though I feel I may not succeed personally, I may never actually record any of my music or songs as I really hear it in my head, and never get to do it justice, that I will work as hard as I can to leave something behind that somebody else can listen to and read and make a professional version of. Maybe somebody with younger, more talent, better voice, more resources, more time, somebody who gets along with other people better, and so that these people can record these songs and perform them, and the mechanical royalties, the songwriting royalties, can go to PETA or someone like PETA. People for the ethical treatment of animals, or some sort of vegan foundation, something vegan and that protects animals. Because, okay, my heart goes out to all the people, especially in Palestine. And you might say, well, why are you caring about animals and not when you should be caring about us? Well, I'm sorry, but until you're a vegan nation, you can't claim that you're innocent. And all the people in Israel certainly can't claim they're innocent while they let their government do what it's doing. And the people in America, when they get nuked, they can't complain that they're innocent either, because America has made it possible for the cult of Judah to rule this world. And also, I want to look at the camera, so I don't blame you either, any of you. We don't get many choices, and I don't think we even have free will. But you claim you have free will, so if you believe you have free will, and you're claiming you have free will, now's the time to exercise that free will, and become the people that you can become. Positive people, vegan people, people who care about justice for all sentient beings. And I know it's hard, and I don't blame anybody for what they've done to me. I don't believe anyone has free will. I can't find any free will anywhere. And if people have free will and do what we do still, then it's we're really evil. So please, don't take any criticism. Take it personally, but don't think I'm acting like I'm better than you. I'm not better than you. I won't be like Francis of Assisi and claim I'm the world's biggest sinner, because there's lots of people worse than me, and I've tried really hard, and I think I've done a lot of good. So go vegan, evolve, manifest the butterfly in you, so we can all meet again in a better place, a better world. Can really, because this world is the manifestation of what we do, what we will, what we want. This world is the manifestation. We have manifest this world, and we reproduce this world every moment. And it's possible that we can't change the world, but by trying to, that's how we evolve and escape this world, by trying to, by being as positive as we can. Not expecting to win, but doing what we think is what we sure is right. It's possible, if enough people do that, we'll manifest a new world. But like I said, it's possible this world was never meant to be perfected, that this world is a classroom, it's a lesson, and that we're going to manifest in other worlds, and that new sentient beings will be born into this world, and they will learn the lessons, and they will manifest into the other worlds too. And at the end of the day, I'm heuristic, so by being positive and trying, even if you don't believe it's possible to change anything, we still may change everything. That's the only, we have no other option. We have no other option but to be positive and to try. Because we have to try to manifest our true self, and become the butterflies, yeah, to evolve and to ascend to higher realms and higher states of being. We have to do positive things to do that. And possibly this will also change the world. It's possible. When I said the power of one and laughed and cried, and okay, so far I've not seen it happen. But in Zen fashion, I won't assume it can't. And it's possible, maybe, in some way, that something I do actually does achieve the positive desired end. Can't rule that out, and you can't rule that out, and don't rule that out until your dying breath. Be positive. Set the agenda. Don't let this world lower your tone. It's a fact, probably, that your tone, that a pitchfork, a tuning fork, might be able to make a glass or a guitar string resonate at the same frequency. But you can't, the tuning fork can't expect to make the whole world resonate at the same frequency. But the alchemy I'm seeking is to become the tuning fork that resonates at the higher frequency, that makes, allows, or facilitates, or produces the higher resonancy in another person. And that other person resonates at my frequency, higher frequency. And together we raise our frequency. And this affects another person, and another person, and another person. And it's possible that the one tuning fork that's set to resonating to this higher frequency, ethical tone, can actually, like the butterfly flapping its wings, produce a huge mass effect and set the whole world to resonating at a higher frequency. We don't know, it's not possible. So why not act like maybe it's possible? Because that's what we want to be possible, and we want to manifest that in ourselves. And if we can't manifest it in this world, then maybe it's how we manifest it in our next worlds that we inherit, the next states of being that we inherit. So, happy next lives, everybody. Please go vegan, and I hope my final message is positive, because it's always intended positive. Yeah, so back to the music, back to face my fear of failure and all the hard work. It's a lot of hard work making music, geez. And doing everything by myself, it just makes it so much harder. But I'm ready to work with other people now if they're interested in working with me on my songs. But if not, I will keep working on them myself, and like I said, hopefully leave a legacy behind which somebody else can manifest and realize, so that the royalties from my life's work can go to help animals and justice, maybe, beauty, truth. The camera keeps freezing with my tongue sticking out. Yeah. Hopefully, if you're thinking of working with me, then I can pretty much say that I can look much better than I do in these videos. So I don't think anything about me personally, physically, is going to repel people. So yeah, but I should have made an effort in my last presentation. We'll see. Maybe I'll make a music video and I'll make an effort to look good, because it's important to make a good impression with people. Not that if it helps, people have more empathy in certain things than others, and if it helps develop rapport and attention, then I'm willing to work on my appearance and dress and, you know, do my hair and shave and stuff. You know, and vanity. Yeah. Okay. Peace, shalom, truth and justice for all sentient beings. And what it takes is honesty. That's what it takes, honesty. And yeah, honesty and honesty and honesty and honesty and honesty. And honestly, it takes a lot of honesty. So, there's a button to turn this off now. Who knows how long this video is? Capture. Stop capture. Don't capture now.